Have you ever noticed how the moment you finally get what you want, a better job, a relationship, a new phone, or even just a weekend of peace, it rarely feels as satisfying as you imagined? Maybe it lasts a few days, maybe just an hour. Then, almost without warning, something inside you stirs, an itch of restlessness, a faint ache of disappointment, or even a surge of anxiety. You wonder, why can't I ever just be content? Why does happiness always slip through my fingers the moment I grasp it? Maybe you try to silence that voice by chasing after the next thing, the next raise, the next travel destination, the next person to love. But even then, the cycle repeats. Joy gives way to boredom. Anticipation turns into emptiness. And underneath it all, there's a quiet, unspoken fear. Am I broken? Or is happiness itself a lie? If you've ever found yourself trapped between the pains of longing and the dull ache of boredom, you're not alone. Today, we're diving straight into this universal human dilemma, one that has haunted people for centuries but is more relevant now than ever. But we won't be tiptoeing around the truth. We're going to confront it head on, with the uncompromising gaze of Arthur Schopenhauer, a philosopher infamous for pulling no punches, for looking directly at the darkness most thinkers shy away from. What you'll discover in the next few minutes isn't just why your happiness always feels fragile or fleeting. You'll learn the hidden logic behind your restlessness. You'll see why satisfaction seems to evaporate as soon as you arrive. Most importantly, you'll gain a set of brutally honest mental tools drawn from Schopenhauer's Parerga and Paralipomena to help you break free from this cycle and start transforming your relationship with happiness, suffering, and your own mind. So ask yourself, are you ready to see through the illusion? Are you willing to confront the root cause of your unhappiness? If so, what you're about to hear could be the beginning of a radical shift, not just in how you think, but in how you live. Let's begin with the core of Schopenhauer's philosophy, the concept of the will. What does he mean by will? In plain English, Schopenhauer isn't talking about willpower or the ability to make choices. He means a blind, insatiable force, the fundamental drive behind all life, including you. It's the urge that makes your heart beat, your lungs breathe, your mind yearn. It's the endless engine of desire, always wanting, always pushing, never satisfied. Think about it. How much of your day is governed by wanting? Wanting food, wanting comfort, wanting attention, respect, love, achievement, novelty, distraction. Sometimes the wanting is obvious. That new gadget, that perfect body, that one person to finally text you back. Sometimes it's subtler. A longing for things to be just right or for your worries to disappear. According to Schopenhauer, this will is not something you choose. It's deeper than thought, deeper than your personality. It is existence itself, experienced as a constant gnawing urge. And here's the first uncomfortable truth. As long as you are alive, you are never free from wanting. Now, you might think, but isn't desire the engine of progress? Don't our wants give life meaning? Yes and no. Schopenhauer's insight is that while desire does fuel action, it also traps us in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. Why? Because as soon as one want is satisfied, another springs up to take its place. Imagine it. You've been craving a piece of cake all day. When you finally eat it, you feel a fleeting burst of pleasure, but then what? Do you feel deep, lasting fulfillment? Or does your mind immediately start searching for the next thing, another snack, another distraction, another goal? Have you noticed how quickly joy turns into emptiness? Schopenhauer calls this the pendulum of human existence. We swing constantly between the pain of unfulfilled desire and the boredom that comes with having nothing left to want. Pain and boredom, wanting and waiting, each one feeding the other, endlessly. So, what does this mean for you? It means that the very structure of your mind, the very thing that makes you strive and achieve, is also the source of your deepest dissatisfaction. No amount of winning, having, or achieving can end this cycle. Because it's not about what you get, it's about how the will operates within you. Let's pause here. Ask yourself, how much of your daily struggle, your anxiety, your frustration comes not from what you lack, but from the endless pressure to keep wanting, to keep chasing something just out of reach. The first step to freedom isn't to kill your desires or numb yourself. It's to recognize how deeply the cycle of wanting runs in your life. By seeing it clearly, you start to loosen its grip even just a little. Now that we've exposed the engine of dissatisfaction, let's examine the mirage we keep chasing. Happiness. What is happiness, really? Is it a place you reach? A permanent state you can achieve? For most of us, happiness is imagined as the endpoint of a journey. If only I get X, I'll finally be happy. Once I fix Y, everything will feel right. If I just become the person I'm supposed to be, then I'll rest. But Schopenhauer, ever the iconoclast, shatters this dream. He says bluntly, happiness is nothing but the temporary removal of a pain or lack. It's not a destination. It's a momentary pause in the endless cycle of wanting. Let's use an example. Think of how you feel after scratching a mosquito bite. That intense relief, it feels almost pleasurable, right? But you're not experiencing pure happiness. You're just feeling the absence of an itch, a problem that has been temporarily solved. Soon, the itch returns, or something else starts to bother you. The cycle restarts. For Schopenhauer, all of our happiness works this way. The pleasure of getting what you want is just the brief quiet between two storms, the storm of wanting and the storm of boredom or new desire. We don't ever reach lasting satisfaction. We just keep chasing new ways to scratch new itches. Now, you might protest, but what about joy, love, beauty, those moments of peace? Schopenhauer would say, even the highest joys are temporary, and once they fade, their absence feels like loss. In fact, the more intense the joy, the deeper the pain of its disappearance. That's why people who seem to have it all, money, status, success, are often plagued by a sense of emptiness or a fear of losing what they've gained. The higher the mountain, the scarier the fall. So, why does this matter to you? Because it means that the problem isn't that you're failing to arrive at happiness. The problem is that happiness itself, as commonly sold to us, is an illusion, a fleeting interval in a life defined by constant motion. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt a wave of emptiness after achieving a big goal? Have you ever found yourself inexplicably sad after a moment of triumph? That's the trap Schopenhauer is warning us about. Lasting happiness, as we imagine it, is unattainable not because we're broken, but because we're human. The sooner we see this, the sooner we can stop punishing ourselves for not reaching an impossible goal. Let's pause and absorb what we've uncovered so far. The will drives us to want. and happiness is always just a temporary relief from that wanting. We're not broken, we're simply playing by the rules of a game we never designed. So, if happiness, as we imagine it, is an illusion, what are we supposed to do? Are we doomed to endless misery? Or is there another way to relate to our desires, our suffering, and ourselves? Let's dig deeper. If the will can't be satisfied and happiness can't be permanently achieved, what options do we have? Is there a way out? Schopenhauer, despite his reputation for pessimism, does offer a radical shift in perspective. He suggests that the only real freedom lies in understanding and changing your relationship to the will. What does this mean in practice? It means learning to step back from the automatic chase for pleasure, achievement, or escape. Instead of letting your life be ruled by the next desire, you develop the power to observe your desires, almost as if you're watching them from outside. Let's use a simple metaphor. Imagine you're sitting in a movie theater, watching an action film. For most of your life, you've been completely absorbed in the story, caught up in the explosions, the drama, the urgency of the chase. You feel every twist, every heartbreak, every moment of tension as if it's your own. But what happens if, just for a moment, you remember that you're watching a film? Suddenly, you get some distance. You can appreciate the story, but you're not overwhelmed by it. You can even choose how much to get involved. This is the heart of Schopenhauer's solution. Through self-awareness, through conscious reflection, you start to notice the endless wants and stories playing in your mind. You stop believing every urge is a command. You stop assuming that happiness is waiting just around the corner. You see the will in action, and by seeing it, you loosen its grip. Schopenhauer identifies two main practices that help with this: aesthetic contemplation, immersing yourself in art, music, or nature, not to achieve or acquire, but to simply experience beauty and lose yourself in something greater than your personal desires. Compassion, recognizing that all beings are driven by the same insatiable will. You cultivate empathy not just for others' suffering, but for your own. Instead of judging yourself for wanting or for not being happy enough, you can hold your pain with gentleness and understanding. Let's break these down with examples. Aesthetic contemplation. Maybe you're listening to a piece of music that moves you so deeply you forget, for a moment, about your problems, your goals, your needs. Or you're walking in the woods, and suddenly the beauty of sunlight on leaves silences your mind. In these moments, you step outside the me-centered world of desire, if only for a while. The will quiets. There's peace. Compassion. Imagine you're in line at the grocery store, frustrated because things aren't moving fast enough. Instead of stewing in irritation, you remember, everyone here, just like you, is driven by their own wants, fears, and disappointments. Maybe you even notice the stress on the cashier's face. Compassion isn't about pretending the world is perfect. It's about seeing your shared humanity and choosing to respond with understanding rather than aggression. So what does this mean for you? It means that freedom isn't about erasing desire or suffering forever. It's about seeing them clearly, understanding their nature, and cultivating moments of perspective through beauty, through empathy, through conscious choice. You can't escape the will, but you can learn to see it, soften its edges, and find moments of peace in the eye of the storm. There's one more player in Schopenhauer's cycle, the one we often overlook: boredom. If pain is the sharp end of desire, boredom is the dull ache of its absence. Schopenhauer writes, "Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. When you have too little, you suffer. When you have too much, you grow restless, numb, even depressed." In today's world, boredom is everywhere. We reach for our phones, scroll endlessly, binge watch, shop online not out of real need, but to escape that uncomfortable sense of emptiness. Ironically, the more we try to fill every second, the emptier we feel. But here's a twist. Schopenhauer argues that boredom is actually a window, a chance to see the will's workings laid bare. When you're bored, you come face to face with the naked machinery of desire. Most of us run from this moment. But if you can sit with it even for a little while, you begin to see that you are not your urges, and that their absence doesn't destroy you. Next time you feel boredom creeping in, what if you tried to notice it instead of escaping? What if you asked, "What is it that I'm really craving right now? What am I trying to distract myself from?" Sometimes the answers are surprising and surprisingly freeing. So why does this matter to you? Because learning to tolerate, even appreciate moments of emptiness is a key to breaking the cycle. It's in the space between wants that insight, creativity, and genuine rest can arise. Don't fear boredom. Use it as a mirror. Let it show you the mechanics of your mind, and in that awareness, find a new kind of freedom. So far, we've explored the relentless dance between desire, happiness, and boredom. We've seen that true liberation isn't about winning the game, but about seeing the bored for what it is. Are you starting to glimpse the possibility of living differently, not by eliminating pain, but by understanding its role in your story? Let's illustrate all of this with a more concrete example. Let's meet Chloe, not a real person, but a stand-in for the struggles we all face. Chloe is successful by almost any measure. She has a stable job, a comfortable apartment, friends, even a loving partner. But deep down, she feels an inexplicable restlessness. Whenever she achieves something, a promotion, a new relationship milestone, even just a fun night out, there's a familiar pattern, a spike of happiness, then a quick, deflating return to dissatisfaction. She tries to fix it by setting bigger goals, planning more vacations, buying new things, filling every empty moment with stimulation. But nothing sticks. The void remains. One day, after reading about Schopenhauer, Chloe decides to experiment. Instead of running from her discomfort, she tries to observe it. She notices the constant chatter in her mind, the voice insisting, "You need more. You're not enough. If only you had X, everything would change." She tries to sit with her boredom, just for a few minutes instead of distracting herself. She starts keeping a journal, writing down her wants and the feelings that follow when she gets them. Slowly, she begins to recognize the cycle not as a personal failure, but as a universal human pattern. She finds unexpected peace in moments of beauty, a piece of music, the laughter of a friend, the sight of sunlight on her wall. These moments don't erase her restlessness, but they give her space. She learns to meet her own pain and the pain of others with a little more gentleness. Chloe hasn't become a sage, nor has she solved the problem of existence, but she has stopped blaming herself for being broken. She has started to understand and even accept the endless dance of desire, boredom, and relief. And in that acceptance, a new kind of happiness quietly emerges, not the happiness of getting what she wants, but the happiness of knowing herself more deeply. So what about you? What patterns keep you trapped? What would happen if, like Chloe, you paused, observed, and gently questioned your own cravings and disappointments? What kind of freedom might be possible not in the future, but right now? Let's step back for a moment. We live in an age obsessed with happiness, an endless stream of social media wins, self-help promises, and dopamine-fueled distractions. We're told that fulfillment is just one more achievement away, yet rates of anxiety, depression, and emptiness keep rising. Schopenhauer's insights cut through the noise. They remind us that the endless pursuit of happiness is itself the root of our suffering, that we're trapped, not because we're weak, but because we've inherited a human mind built for wanting, not for contentment. But here's the radical hope. When you stop fighting the endless tide of desire, when you see through the illusion, you gain power not to control the world, but to shift your relationship with yourself, to stop running, to start seeing, to cultivate moments of peace, compassion, and perspective amid the storm. In a world addicted to the next big thing, learning to accept, understand, and even befriend your own restless mind might be the most rebellious act you can commit. So ask yourself, what kind of life would open up if you stopped trying to win the game of happiness and started exploring the truth of your own experience, right here and now? Let's recap. The will. The root of your dissatisfaction is not personal failure, but the universal force of desire, what Schopenhauer calls the will. The illusion of happiness. Happiness, as sold to you, is an illusion always fleeting, always just out of reach, because it's built on the temporary relief from wanting. Escaping the cycle. Freedom doesn't come from getting everything you want, but from changing your relationship to your desires through awareness, aesthetic experience, and compassion. Boredom as a teacher. Even boredom, though uncomfortable, can be a portal to insight if you meet it with curiosity instead of fear. The power of understanding. The more clearly you see this cycle, the less you're trapped by it. You can't eliminate suffering or craving, but you can stop letting them rule you. So, what's the tool for transformation you walk away with today? It's not a new technique or a 7-step plan. It's a radical shift in perspective, a willingness to stop blaming yourself, to stop chasing phantoms, and to start meeting your own mind with honesty, gentleness, and a little more humor. No, you won't become a superhuman overnight, but you might begin to taste a deeper kind of happiness, the happiness of understanding yourself, of sharing in the common human struggle, and of finding beauty and meaning in places you never expected. You are not broken for feeling restless or dissatisfied. You are awake, and by daring to see things as they are, by meeting your desires and disappointments with clear eyes and an open heart, you are already stepping into a rare kind of freedom. I invite you, yes, you watching right now, to share in the comments. What is one desire, one habit, or one belief you've been chasing? And what would happen if you looked at it through Schopenhauer's eyes? How might your story shift? Let's start a conversation, no judgment, just honest reflection. If this video sparked something in you, please consider subscribing to MindMirror. Together, let's keep exploring the deep questions and finding practical wisdom for a more awake, more compassionate life. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and never stop looking beneath the surface. The ideas explored in this video are for philosophical and psychological exploration and are not intended as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage in their own critical thinking and further research, and to consult with qualified professionals for personal concerns.